What takes priority? Giving dawah to new. What takes priority? Giving dawah to non-Muslims or giving dawah to those who are already Muslim but are not practicing their deen enough? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this is such a common question, subhanallah, and I always laugh when I get it because it's from this kind of person who somehow is completely unable to divide their time, as if time can only be spent doing one thing. Sheikh, what should I focus on? Should I be focusing on giving da'wah to non-Muslims because I like doing that, I'm good at it, or should I focus on the brothers that I know, friends, and who are already existing Muslims at the masjid, born Muslims, been Muslim for years, but they're not praying properly, not practicing, they're not doing X, Y, Z, they're doing haram things. Should I be focusing on da'wah to them because I'm good at that as well? So like I said, who said that you have to only do one thing? I mean, that's the obvious answer to this, right? I mean, clearly, a person should have that responsibility and discipline to be able to schedule their time out, to be able to decide this is time for my personal study, this is for my personal Quran, this is for entertainment time, this is for non-Muslims, this is for new Muslims, this is for already existing Muslims who are not practicing, and then those who are very, very practicing, being with them and spending time with them so that you can also grow as well. Who says that you're actually any better than everyone else? So obviously that's an ideal answer, but there is actually an interesting point behind this question. Actually, technically speaking, legally speaking, which is the group of people that are more deserving? And to understand the answer to this question, you need to understand a principle in the Sharia, and that is that, and we've discussed this a few times, much of the commands and obligations of this religion are based upon one's ability, and giving da'wah to non-Muslims is an obligation which is based upon your ability. So for example, if you are completely unable to express your deen in any language other than your mother tongue, and everyone around you only speaks another language, then clearly you are at a loss and you will not be able to do this da'wah. And yes, we can take a kind of like a cheat solution and say you must be very, very nice then, and you give da'wah via your actions. And I'm not going to denigrate that. That's probably more important and more powerful than you actually giving the verbal da'wah. So I'm not saying that's not good. But let's just say technically you don't have the ability to give da'wah to non-Muslims. Does that mean therefore that you have to somehow train and learn and this and that just because of giving da'wah to them? No. Maybe you have skills in another area and you're able to benefit, for example, people who are from your own culture and speak your mother tongue, who you know because you're practicing, because you study, because you know your deen, and they would desperately benefit from your time and your expertise and your skill set and your language and your cultural background and so on. And so it makes common sense that you put your time where your skills allow it, where there's best use of your actual time, where the fruits are going to be more. So the answer is it goes down to you. What are you best at? If you are best at giving da'wah to non-Muslims, and as I said, the ideal situation is that you do as much as you can of everything that you can. If you are able to maintain a high standard of ihsan and itqan, of excellence and perfection, because that's what's required from us as Muslims. We've got to do things in the best way. But if you know that you're not very good at a certain area, and you know that you are good, for example, at speaking to non-Muslims and connecting with them and sharing a lot of kind of experiences and being able to gain their trust and being able to debate with them, or you're very good at debating in a very specific area that a lot of people are kind of have deviated in, for example, then that is actually an area that you should focus on, and that is permissible. Because when it comes to achieving the aims of Sharia, when it comes to the spreading of Islam, if all the good cannot be achieved, then some of the good should be achieved. There's not a case where you say, oh, well, forget it, I'm not going to do anything. And so if a person can't cover all areas and they can focus on one, then that's what they should do. And there are some people who really have absolutely no experience with non-Muslims, very little to and fro with them. Maybe they they're brought up in a very insular environment. They work in their own kind of business. They work in a community where there are not many non-Muslims, and that's not something impermissible. It's just a reality of their lives, and they really have no idea. They haven't got the first clue of how to initiate conversation with non-Muslims. It's too awkward. They may be giving off a wrong kind of vibe, and so we'll say, listen, do you have strength in other areas? They say, yeah, I've got such a great relationship with my customers, Muslim customers. I'm able to, they've got a level of respect which they can, which I can work on, and so on. And I can really utilize my background in working with a different group of people with different set of objectives, different aspirations. Then we'll say, that's your calling, that's your area. Remember, in Sharia, it's not just about the numbers, okay? It's about the quality. So it might be that, for example, you will focus on all of your time just upon one non-Muslim. But in this non-Muslim is someone who's very powerful, someone who's very authoritative, and so on. And as a result of all of your time being invested into this one person, there'll be a great khair that will come out of it as a result. On the other hand, it might be that you are a teacher and you have the option of teaching lots of people in big kind of lectures or seminars, or you can record lots of videos that go onto the internet and spread, to thousands of people. But you know that the content that you're pushing out is very, very kind of basic, and it's not really producing any really high quality converts or high quality kind of students. But you do know, on the other hand, that if you spend your quality time, lots of your time with one person who you see a lot of khair in, a lot of potential in, and you know that this person could take your teachings and combine it with their own intellect and take it to the next level and affect the masses, then who's to say that your time with this person is not more rewarded and not more better? If you look at the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are always calling to Tawheed. And the majority of the time, the da'wah is actually to non-Muslims as opposed to their own converts. This is actually a clear fact that we can't deny. And so you will see actually that their success rate is not as great as you may think it is. And that's a very important point, because if you actually realize that it doesn't matter about the actual success. It's the quality of the da'wah and hopefully the quality result. But if you don't get a convert or you don't get a person practicing as a result, remember that your success, your reward is not being based upon your results. Your reward is based upon the time that you put in, the sincerity that you showed, your intention that you had. And therefore, whatever area that you spend your time in, every single second is rewarded. So also remember, try to take your mind away from worrying about, I need to convert so many people, I need to bring 50 shahadas in this year, or I need to have 100 students from the practicing Muslims follow me. Think about actually where you're best at and your skill set. And are you sincerely doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And if you are, then every single second will be rewarded for you in an unimaginable way, whether you get your results or not. And that's something which you should focus on. And to close off this discussion, and if we were going to be legal and technical about this, then let me say this. If you were to compare the da'wah to a non-Muslim versus the da'wah to a Muslim who is not practicing, legally speaking, the non-Muslim takes priority. That is because they have nothing, whereas the one who's already Muslim has something. Sure, they're not practicing the deen as it should be, they're far off their obligations, but they've always got a foot in the door, right? They've got a chance. There's peaks and troughs. They go through their iman up and down. They'll see a lecture, at least they'll actually watch it. Sometimes they'll be affected by it. They'll go to the mosque every once in a while. There's a good chance that something will happen regardless of your impact on them or not. Whereas a non-Muslim has absolutely nothing. They're not even on zero, they're minus. So if you were to get someone to zero, it would be a positive result. So technically speaking, actually the priority does fall with the non-Muslims. But the reason I left this point to the end is that I don't want this to be the focus. I don't want the legal reality to be the focus. This is a very important point. When we're discussing ilm, knowledge, and the right kind of guidance, it's more than just the books. It's more than just the theory. It's the practice and the reality of that knowledge as well. So yes, legally speaking, non-Muslims do have a greater priority or do deserve more of your time, because from minus to zero to positive is a real aim and a real concern. Whereas the Muslims who are already actually Muslim, well, at least they're either at zero or in the positive. They're not in the negative, are they? They're not kuffar, are they? They're not mushrikeen, are they? They're not yani Yahud and Nasara, are they? So technically that's the facts. But I want you to focus on your skill set. I don't want you to worry too much about who's priority, who's not. I want you to understand that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you is what you're good at, and He judges you for your sincerity, and He will not waste a single second of your time if you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah knows best. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.